repairs, for she was to return to Halifax via the Panama Canal. Engineers checked her 300-horsepower diesel engine, while welders made repairs to her sturdy rudder, which had been battered by many an ice floe. Crew members spent busy hours painting and rigging new aerials and halyards. Her hull was given a fresh coat of paint, and when the job of overhauling and repainting had been completed, the dock was flooded and the St. Roch refloated. Back at her berth, the task of taking on stores got underway, carefully watched by Inspector Hall of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Marine Division, who was to command the St. Roch on her voyage. Ballast, to give her stability, was loaded on board along with 6,000 gallons of fuel oil and a variety of other stores and equipment. Lifeboats were given a final check, and at noon on April 8, 1950, the St. Roch cast off and headed for the open sea. Off Cape Flattery, the St. Roch ran into heavy weather. As she rolled and pitched, seas poured over her bow and sheets of spray beat against the bridge. 5 days later, a pilot was picked up, and flying the United States flag at her masthead above her signal numbers, the St. Roch sailed under the majestic Golden Gate Bridge into San Francisco Bay. To starboard, shining like a jewel in the morning sun, lay the glittering city of San Francisco. To port, the island prison of Alcatraz, permanent home of some 250 infamous criminals. Inspector Hall was greeted by the Canadian consul and later presented with a picture of San Francisco Harbor for the wardroom by the Junior Chamber of Commerce. A young Boy Scout who visited the St. Roch told of his ambition to join the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and displayed some fine wooden models he had carved himself. Quite unconcerned with all the excitement were the fishermen, who calmly went about the job of mending their nets. Here in San Francisco can be seen a Munsden sloop, Joa, the first ship to navigate the Northwest Passage. 2 days later, the St. Roch slipped from her berth, leaving behind a group of newfound friends. At sea again, she headed for San Diego. Even the cook left his galley for a few minutes to take a look at the beautiful Santa Monica Hills. At the entrance to San Diego Harbor, the St. Roch passed units of the United States Pacific Fleet putting out to sea. Among them was the USS Rochester, a 17,000-ton heavy cruiser. The beautiful city of San Diego dates back to the earliest times of Spanish civilization in California. In the zoological gardens, there are a variety of tropical and semi-tropical birds. Leaving San Diego, the St. Roch headed for Acapulco, Mexico. Canvas awnings were spread over decks as a protection against the tropical sun. A wind sail was rigged to catch the breeze and carry it below to the mess decks and engine room. And lifeboat drill was carried out as part of the regular routine. One day, a strange sight was seen. A large bird apparently standing on a rock in the middle of the ocean. But on closer inspection, the rock turned out to be a giant turtle, one of many which abound in these waters. On April 27th, the St. Roch approached Acapulco. For most of the crew, it was their first visit to a Mexican port. At the entrance to the harbor stands an old fort, once a protection against Captain Morgan and his pirate fleet. Inspector Hall paid a courtesy visit to the mayor of the city. From the surrounding hills, one can look down onto the bay and the many little lagoons along the coast. Acapulco is a holiday resort, and the chief pastime is bathing. From Acapulco, the St. Roch headed for Balboa, her last port of call before she would enter the Panama Canal and move into the Atlantic Ocean. The weather was sultry and hot. The men, unused to the tropics, slung their hammocks above decks to escape the heat below. While waiting at Balboa, the entrance to the Panama Canal, the ruins of old Panama City were visited. Founded in the early 16th century, it was later destroyed by Henry Morgan, the notorious pirate. The crew saw the ruins of the castle and church at San Jose, and the dungeons where political prisoners were slowly drowned by the rising tide. A government pilot was taken on board for the journey through the canal, and a special colored crew used for handling the lines. While going through the canal, ships remain in the center of the locks and are towed by lines from electric cars which run on tracks on the canal bank. The locks are 110 feet wide and have a usable length of 1,000 feet. They are in pairs, so if one lock is out of service, navigation is not interrupted. Ships have to pass through a series of locks till elevated to the level of Guillard Cut. From the cut, St. Roch passed into Gatun Lake, the second largest artificial lake in the world. The canal is 51 miles in length from ocean to ocean, and the journey takes about 8 hours to complete. Started by the French, the canal was completed by the United States and officially opened in 1920. As she moved towards the Atlantic, the St. Roch passed the entrance to the first canal, which was abandoned at the turn of the century. Out from Panama, the St. Roch headed for Havana, Cuba. Havana is a gay, beautiful city, rich in old Spanish architecture. But Havana is also a city of great contrasts, its wide avenues contrasting with its narrow, congested streets. The cars of the city with the ox cart of the country. Cuba's national sport is cockfighting. The birds are specially clipped and their legs are fitted with long, sharp spurs. All too soon it was time to leave, and the St. Roch said goodbye to Havana. Out at sea, she ran into heavy weather and tossed and pitched on the Atlantic swell. Goodbye to Cuba also meant goodbye to the southern sun, and tropical kits were replaced by sweaters and oilskins. From Cuba, the St. Roch sailed to the great United States naval base of Norfolk, Virginia. From Norfolk, she sailed for New York City and ran into heavy fog. The pilot was picked up off the Ambrose lightship, and the St. Roch sailed into New York Harbor past the dim silhouette of the Statue of Liberty. Unfortunately, the crew were unable to remain long in New York as more pressing duties awaited them in Halifax. The following evening, the St. Roch slipped quietly from her berth on the last lap of her long journey home. The next day, beautiful Cape Cod Canal was reached, and St. Roch set her course for Halifax, Nova Scotia. On the evening of May 29th, at the entrance to Halifax Harbor, she was welcomed home by the RCMP cruiser French. And so, after 6 years' absence, and having twice conquered the Northwest Passage, the St. Roch returned to Halifax, the first ship in the history of navigation to completely encircle the North American continent.